And so, Nicole, as we continue to see them get ready to close that smaller hatch, again, the crew module side hatch, let's take some questions now.
Sounds good.
They were given the opportunity to adjust the lighting as they see fit, again, just so that they can get comfortable. It's kind of like when we are on a plane and you get the opportunity to...
Sure, yeah, you don't want the bright lights in your eyes. Also, you want to be able to see the screens well, or see the, the tablet on Jeremy's knee well, so they're going to adjust the lighting to what makes sense for the mission.
In order to send a destruct signal to a rocket in case it veers off path. So it's a very critical, important safety component in terms of how the range keeps the public safe here.
This is, we have the crew module. And then what sits out basically on top of the crew module is the launch abort system, and it has its own motors, so that we'll arm it about 5 minutes prior to launch, and then it stays with the crew module until about the Kármán line, so that 100-kilometer point in space. Once the crew could safely get to orbit, it will actually be jettisoned, and the crew module will then be exposed. So this is just a safety mechanism that stays on the outside of the crew module, and then as they monitor.
Clear board here is great news. So again, the range is green, and we're continuing to work through the countdown. We got a weather update that came in to the launch director from Launch Weather Officer Mark Berger. He reported out that there's still a little bit of feisty weather activity that's happening up in the Titusville area. That's the city neighboring the Kennedy Space Center. Those showers had passed over Kennedy, and then now they're currently over in Titusville, currently still within that mile kind of constraint of flight through precipitation rule.
To be here for launch, what did you say?
I'm very excited. It's our mom's birthday, and
not a better way to celebrate right now. I asked you on a scale of 1 to 10, how excited are you? Would you say?
11. Yeah, 11. I'm very excited.
Super excited.
Yeah.
So, Megan, we've been watching the launch broadcast here and hearing some of the questions that you and Nicole have been asking and answering. And I actually wanted to ask these two kids, if you could take a 10-day trip around the moon and take 3 people with you, who'd you take with you?
Well, I'd take my dad and my mom.
It would be when that temperature is checked inside of T-minus 6 minutes, which is inside of terminal count. So right now the team is working some troubleshooting on this issue. Going to follow, of course, along closely with what they learn. But again, a battery temp for one of the 2 batteries on the LAS is out of spec, and the team is working to understand, first of all, whether or not this may be a sensor issue, or is there an issue with the battery itself.
CCL.
Yes, sir. Reconfigure ARS primary loop ISO valves.
Copy, that's in work.
And CDR OTC Orion Earth 1.
Go.
ARS loop ISO valves are being closed at this time.
Integrity copies. Copy that.
I have an LCC violation of O-CT-004, S-band transponder anomaly. This was a transient LCC violation, so transponder 1 had a demodulated SNR estimate that went down to 2 dBm when it should have been between 10 and 13. It is now back up to 12, but we did lose that for just a moment. It does not appear that we lost our bit sync or carrier lock, which would be indicative that we lost our lock with the vehicle. So at this point, recommendation would still be go. However, we do have a pre-planned contingency procedure if we want to look at that. But again, this is transient, so we're back in a nominal range.
All right, let's see, LPE NTD. Yeah, we're not seeing that hit, so I guess the question for COSE, was that less than 3 samples? Was that below our persistence?
Stand by, let me look. It did look like it did persist for several seconds on mine, but let me take a look at the number of samples.
Could I get a repeat on the affected LCC, please?
Yes, ma'am, that's going to be O-CT-004.
With all of that, OSC, then are we in a go configuration per your LCC?
Yes, sir. Recommendation would be go.
Okay, LPE, you concur with that? Yes, sir. LPE concurs, go.
And Launch Director?
Yes, sir. Launch Director concurs, go.
All right, and I'm going to go ahead and just verify everybody has everything else complete, Launch Director, and if we do, we'll be ready to pick up the poll at that time, unless there's something else that you're aware of. Right. And for all personnel, this is the NTD conducting the Artemis II launch readiness check. Verify ready to resume count and go for launch. OTC.
OTC is go.
STC.
STC is go.
GTC.
C's go.
MCO.
TO's go.
Safety Console.
The Safety Console is go.
LPE.
LPE's go.
RTD.
RTD's go.
Houston Flight.
Houston Flight is go.
ROC.
ROC is go.
And CDR.
Crew is go.
Copy that. Thank you, Reed. And Launch Director NTD, our launch team is ready to proceed at this time.
All right, NTD, I copy all. At this time, I'll perform my poll. Attention on the net. This is the Launch Director performing the final poll for launch, verify no constraints, and go for launch. EGS, Program Chief Engineer.
Artemis Chief Engineers are go.
Copy, thank you. EGS, Chief Safety Officer.
Artemis CSOs are go.
Copy, thank you. Range Weather.
Launch weather is go.
Thank you, LWO. And Artemis MMT Chair.
MMTs go.
Thank you, John. And Integrity Launch Director.
Good to hear your voice, Charlie. PLT.
Thank you, Charlie. This is Victor. We are going for our families.
MS1.
This is Christina. We are going for our teammates.
MS2.
This is Jeremy. We are going for all humanity.
All right, Charlie, your Artemis II crew is go for launch. Full send.
I copy that. Reed, Victor, Christina, and Jeremy. On this historic mission, you take with you the heart of this Artemis team, the daring spirit of the American people and our partners across the globe, and the hopes and dreams of a new generation. Good luck. Godspeed, Artemis II. Let's go.
And here we go. 10, 9, 8, 7. RS-25 engines lit. 4, 3, 2, 1. Booster ignition. And liftoff. The crew of Artemis II now bound for the moon. Humanity's next great voyage begins.
Good roll pitch.
Roger, roll pitch.
Houston now controlling the flight of Integrity on the Artemis II mission around the moon.
Integrity, AMT high.
AMT high.
On time, passing 30 seconds into the flights. Integrity passes the alternate beacon. Target milestone. Mission Control Houston seeing good performance on the 4 main engines. Space Launch System core stage. Integrity, 3 miles in altitude. Traveling more than 1,200 miles per hour. Main engines throttling up, guidance converged.
Integrity, guidance converged, performance nominal, upper stage RCS ready.
Copy all, Stan.
Integrity, SM priming complete. Integrity, nominal MECO, core stage separated.
We see the same on
Activation of some environmental control life support systems and waste management systems. Currently, as teams on the ground analyze some troubleshooting of the activation steps that she was going through, she'll gather some of the backup waste management capabilities that they have aboard Integrity.
To know how you feel after a crew has now piloted Orion for the very first time.
Oh, it's always a great feeling to see something that your team developed go fly for real.
You're getting a live view inside the Orion spacecraft during some general daily activities that the crew is conducting. You heard communications with Christina Hansen, Christina Cook calling down to Chris Birch here, our Capcom in Mission Control Houston. She continues to troubleshoot the ECG device that they are testing out. In the foreground, in the blue shirt, Commander Reed Wiseman, and next to him in the black shirt, Canadian Space Agency astronaut and mission specialist Jeremy Hansen. In the background, you're getting a look at NASA astronaut Victor Glover, pilot for the Artemis II mission, preparing to exercise. And what he is using is the flywheel device. We've discussed this a few times. This is
Houston, Integrity for ECG. No joy seeing the device in the list of available devices when I attempt to repair it after doing the Bluetooth forget.
Sounds good. We'll wait for your call.
That call from the crew about performing a wastewater dump. We actually had great views earlier from inside the cabin while they did so. It was fascinating. Talking about, preparing for the future, but we've also had similar hardware on the space station for the past 25 years. So what are some differences in the hardware that we have now on Orion and versus what we have on the International Space Station?
Yeah, our biggest difference between Orion, because we are a deep space vehicle, you have that very long return, and there's no coming back until when you do that translunar injection burn that we did yesterday.
Inside Orion, you see they have dimmed the cabin lights. They have this option to allow them to get better views outside the window so there aren't any reflections from that lighting onto the windows. Being that we are 123 miles away from Earth and that distance continuing to grow, we are 145,000 miles away from the moon. And I think I previously said 123 miles from Earth. That's 123,000.
At that, it's hard to imagine, but we can see here on our flight PFD that we are at 118,000 nautical miles. So, yeah, you can do the math. We can see the moon out of the docking hatch right now. It is a beautiful sight. We're seeing more and more of the far side, and it's just a thrill to be here.
We are 4 days, 19 hours, 31 minutes mission elapsed time of the flight of Artemis II, our 4 astronauts aboard Orion. Today is our Lunar Flyby day.
Go ahead.
Hey, Jenny. Understanding we are in final attitude now for the Lunar Flyby, would it be possible to pitch the vehicle down 5 degrees? That would allow us to get the D5 long lens flush and have the least amount of window distortion.
Dark albedo. And then around them there are some very high albedo spots just to the north of the southern one, and just to the west of the smaller one to the north. Very high albedo, almost approaching the 10, a 9 or a 10, like Aristarchus.
The view on your screen coming from Orion, a camera mounted on the spacecraft's solar array wing. Eclipse, so that's before and after totality, and during that time frame they will have to wear Eclipse glasses so they can safely view this phase. They also intend to capture images of the sun's corona during the eclipse. This is a rare glimpse at the innermost corona that will only be captured by the astronauts' cameras.
In window 1, but that terminator has moved. I guess I've been using Vavilov the whole time, so it's gone 2 more Vavilov craters to the west, and so a few more features are starting to peek out into the sunlight there with that low sun angle, and so you still have ridges and valleys showing up very clearly, a very jagged terminator.
You're getting your first live look at Orion, the Moon, and the Earth. Everyone in this picture. "30 seconds now until we expect loss of signal. We are getting our first views from Orion after the loss of signal. Orion has come back around the other side of the Moon, and that little crescent that you see is Earth, over 252,000 miles away. This is Artemis Mission Control.
And I think we're seeing some directionality. Some of it is going in different directions because it appears to be moving and combining and recombining as it it's pointing in different directions, and some of it appears to be going like down toward the south pole of the Moon, but it's and then coming back together and going out towards Venus and the Earth. And depending on how I stare at it, it looks like one large structure, but then it definitely has wisps, and you can see 3 or 4 structures inside of it. It's like watching a flame. It's like looking at a flame, and stand by. And so it has some inherent movement. Now there's a very bright spot. There's a very bright spot in the center of it. There's a towering light of and then there were like 2 streamers that were going 30.
Mission elapsed time of 8 days, 10 hours, 22 minutes and counting of the Artemis II mission. We are coming to you live with 24/7 continuous coverage. I'm Nilofer Ramji with NASA Communications. The Orbit 3 team of flight controllers has recently come on console, and we have completed our handover with the Orbit 2 team who just ended their shift.
Once again, this view of the Earth, that is the port of call for Integrity's astronauts later today. Splashdown scheduled 6 hours, 8 minutes, and 22 seconds from now. Everything is in great shape on board the vehicle in the home stretch of what ultimately will be a 694,481-mile journey from launch to splashdown. We're about to have a quick burn conference with the crew to review the parameters of the upcoming return trajectory correction burn. Again, a final opportunity to fine-tune Integrity's path towards its splashdown zone and to make sure the orientation of the spacecraft is correct for its angle of attack into the Earth's atmosphere. This is Mission Control Houston. While we wait for the burn, this view from the deck of the USS John P. Murtha showing some of the armada of helicopters. There will be Navy helicopters hovering over Integrity following splashdown, 2 of them to be employed in the hoisting of the crew members off of the front porch raft that will be erected alongside the vehicle following splashdown. 2 crew members, 2 astronauts for each of the 2 helicopters for the short ride back to the deck of the Murtha, where they will be brought into the medical bay for comprehensive post-flight medical exams. This is Mission Control Houston at a mission elapsed time of 8 days, 20 hours, 39 minutes into the flight of Integrity on the Artemis II mission. There is our planet growing larger in the field of view with each passing minute. We are currently 34,900 nautical miles from Earth and beginning to accelerate toward a splashdown in the Pacific for this 4-person crew. 4 hours and 52 minutes from now. Everything on board Integrity is in great shape. All the systems are functioning perfectly. The crew is in the process of wrapping up their as the astronauts aboard Integrity are in the process of stowing final items in the cabin before they move into their entry checklists. A final review of the procedures and the timelined activities for the rest of this mission. The next major milestone, once again, will be the separation of the European Service Module, which has performed valiantly throughout the course of this flight, from the crew module. That Megan Cruz is on the Murtha, and she'll be providing updates and interviews as well as we continue our operational coverage of the recovery of the Integrity astronauts following their Lunar Flyby mission. Reed Wiseman on the left, doing a fist bump with pilot Victor Glover on the right, and down in the middeck area just below their feet, suited up in their launch and entry suits, are mission specialists Christina Cook and Jeremy Hansen of the Canadian Space Agency. A number of milestones yet to unfold before splashdown just over an hour and a half from now. Earlier today, the crew woke up at about 10:35 a.m. Central Time. They completed the final major maneuver of the flight, that being the return trajectory correction 3 burn. It was an 8-second burn that fine-tuned its trajectory to enter a corridor over the Pacific Ocean a short time from now. That will be the point of entry interface, where the crew will reach the first traces of Earth's atmosphere at an altitude of 400,000 feet.
Took off from San Diego minutes ago. And then actually here on the flight deck, you see 4 helicopters, the 2 in the back. Those will take off in about 30 minutes from now, also with live cameras. So again, lots and lots of imagery that we hope to share with you today.
Integrity to begin the erection of a large inflatable life raft called a front porch that will be buttressed up alongside the hatchway to the spacecraft. That life raft will be used to bring the crew members out of this vehicle once the hatch is open, one by one. They'll get their land legs back after 9 days of weightlessness before they're put in harnesses to be hoisted one by one in sequential fashion, in an alternating fashion, is expected at 7:07 and 8 seconds p.m. Central Time, 5:07 p.m. Pacific Time, 2.5 hours before sunset. The actual total distance traveled for Integrity from launch to splashdown is estimated at 694,481 statute miles. Now that includes the first high elliptical Earth orbit following launch that enabled Integrity to move to 43,000 miles above the Earth at its apogee, and enabling a 24-hour period of systems checkouts before the flight control team here and the mission management team gave approval for Integrity to conduct its translunar injection that propelled it on its way to the moon and its historic lunar flyby. Milestones of the first one coming up in just 31 minutes.
And Integrity, just confirming the LCG gas trap was able to be closed out.
Affirmative.
Copy.
Crew module, service module separation scheduled just 31 minutes from now. During its high-speed entry back into Earth and the peak heating that is expected around the spacecraft of some 4,000 to 5,000 degrees Fahrenheit. On Artemis I, as I think most folks know by now, we flew a trajectory known as a skip entry, in which we performed an initial dip into the atmosphere to bleed off some energy. Then we skipped out of the atmosphere and dipped back into the atmosphere before splashing down in the Pacific. But after the mission was over with, we noticed unexpected liberation of some of the charring effects on the heat shield known as AVCOAT. Before the flight, we had an opportunity to sit down and talk with Entry Flight Director Rick Henfling to get a perspective on what this all means and how the mission was redesigned to try to protect Integrity's heat shield to a higher extent. Let's take a look at that interview. Traveling about 16,000 miles an hour. That blackout period to begin at 6:53 and 54 seconds p.m. Central Time, and again will last about 6 minutes in duration. We're 4 minutes away from entry interface. Mark 1 minute until entry interface. 1 minute 20 seconds until the expected start of our 6-minute blackout.
Integrity, 1 minute to a 6-minute blackout.
Integrity.
Entering the Earth's atmosphere. We're at 400,000 feet, traveling 34,800 feet per second. Time to splashdown, 13 minutes, 10 seconds. And there go the first series of parachutes, and we're on drogues.
And Houston, we're visual 2 drogues out the window.
2 good drogue chutes. Next up.
We copy, we see them.
Next up, the deployment of pilot parachutes that will pull the main chutes out. Time to splash down, 3 minutes and 10 seconds. Perfect descent rate according to flight dynamics.
Good rates on 2 drogues.
Main chute deploy. We're at 5,000 feet. Search and recovery beacon has been activated on integrity. And we have 3 good main chutes. Good 3 main chutes, good reefing, good descent rate, passing through 1,000 feet.
Houston Integrity, splashdown, sending post-landing command now.
Splashdown confirmed.
Copy splashdown, waiting on VLDR.
Splashdown confirmed at 7:07 p.m. Central Time, 5:07 p.m. Pacific Time. From the pages of Jules Verne to a modern-day mission to the moon, a new chapter of the exploration of our celestial neighbor is complete. Integrity's astronauts back on Earth. Of Integrity, so we're standing by for that in the next step in the recovery procedures, but everything is in great shape, and we have 4 healthy crew members on board the vehicle.
First order of business is to set up the front porch and the stabilization collar. You might also hear it referred to as a stab collar. Basically just to make sure that Orion stays upright, doesn't sway in the water too much, again, to make it easier for recovery forces to get the astronauts out. They'll further secure it with other harnesses and lines. About an hour and 10 minutes since splashdown in the Pacific Ocean here. Reed, Victor, Christina, and Jeremy back home after a history-making mission to the moon and back.
I know.
Okay, saw a thumbs up from one of the personnel on the front porch. It looks like they are now getting ready to deploy what they call the Air Rescue Vest, ARV. And so this is the harness that each crew member will get into in order to be hoisted into the helicopters. Again, the
members now out of integrity.
That we're now ready to actually go back to the moon and go back to stay because we've learned all the things we needed to learn.
There's a lot of people pleased here tonight, and we really thank you for joining us. Amit Kshatriya, NASA's Associate Administrator, as we begin to hoist the crew onto the helicopters to head back to the recovery ship. Thank you very much, and congratulations, Amit.
Picking up the first astronaut. Helo 2 now, hovering just 40 feet above the front porch, lowering a recovery specialist out of the helicopter. That person will touch down in the front porch just there. The crew members already outfitted with a harness that will allow them to quickly attach to the hoisting device. Look at the power of those blades throwing water out at the center there, the front porch, with now 3 astronauts and the recovery specialists. Again, crews already outfitted with a harness vest. And here we go. Second astronaut now off the front porch, getting hoisted into the second helicopter. As we wait for that helicopter to come back, make its way back around, just want to mention that the President of the United States called our NASA administrator today while he was on the ship, just minutes after we interviewed him live on our coverage, and congratulated him and NASA on this history-making moment tonight. Helicopter 1 again hovering 40 feet over the front porch. We will soon see another recovery specialist getting lowered onto the front porch. Wow, imagine sitting on that front porch, the wind, the water. But again, the recovery team determined that a helicopter flight back to the ship here would be safer, faster, and more comfortable for our crew who just completed a 10-day mission around the moon. Third astronaut in the air, getting hoisted quickly back into the first helicopter now. The last astronaut, Commander Reed Weissman, now off the front porch and almost into the second helicopter. Both now on their way back to the ship where we are, the USS John P. Murtha. The first helicopter coming in. And wheels down. Wheels down of the first helicopter carrying 2 of our Artemis II crew. The second helicopter making its approach of the flight deck. Plenty of people here on the bow with their cell phones out, filming this moment. Some impressive flying here by the Navy as we are seconds away from wheels down. And there you go. We now have all 4 Artemis II crew members on the USS John P. Murtha, waiting for just one more helicopter to touch down. Very limited personnel here on the flight deck.
Restricted maneuver doctrine is in effect.
As that third helicopter touches down.
The ship is at flight quarters. Stand clear of waiter decks, ACO frame 095, or no cover stop sign, thrown articles over the side, hold all trash and garbage on station. Flight.
All right, and now here we see pilot Victor Glover and mission specialist Christina Cook sitting on the edge of one of the helicopters, looking in great spirits. That familiar smile and laugh from Victor, I can see it from here. Christina, I'm sure, feeling the same way, just blocked a little bit by our camera here, but we'll see her here shortly. A photographer taking their pictures. And so now we see some Navy personnel walking up to the helicopter. This is again the first helicopter carrying pilot Victor Glover and mission specialist Christina Cook. Both have taken off their helmets now. You can see she's looking up. Again, lots of people, just a few levels up off the flight deck, welcoming her home. Scott holding the door like a gentleman, but back on his way to the other crew still on the flight deck.